This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and this is the Pixel 5a. So basically, this is a cross between the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 4a, with a price tag in between too, but closer to the cheaper 4a's price tag. So that's a good thing. It's available in one color only, called mostly black, which does have a little blue-green kind of undertones that you can see. It's a really dull looking phone design wise, but it's not going to offend anybody either. But that's not really what's important. It's only $449, so 450 bucks. And we've got that pixel magic going on with dual rear cameras and some other goodies, which we are going to look at now. So for those of you who are like me and like Pixel phones, but there hasn't been an XL model in a while, and I like bigger phones, but I don't want humongous plank to try to squeeze into my pocket, this is kind of getting to be that Goldilocks size, 6.34-inch display size, so considerably bigger than the 5.8-inch display that we saw in the previous generation, for example, and bigger than the Pixel 5s as well, without being a mega plank. So that's good. The display is OLED. It's 60 Hertz in this price range. You don't get 90 Hertz, although OnePlus Nord has been known to do things like that in the affordable price space. But they make other cuts to balance out the cost, don't they? Anyway, it's OLED. It's 2400 by 1080 resolution, so your usual tall aspect ratio display, and it's pretty nice looking. It gets up to 700 nits with auto brightness on outdoors, which means you can see in the bright Texas sun, which is where we are right now. Other delightful things about the phone: IP67 water resistance rating and dust too. So these days we're washing our hands and everything else all the time. That's pretty important. It has a headphone jack, and it has a humongous battery, which is considerably larger than you'll find in any of the other Pixel phones out there, particularly bigger than the 4a. So as you can imagine, given the fact that we have the Snapdragon 765G, which is an upper mid-range processor, and not huge or super duper crazy high resolution display, that battery life on this is pretty good. You have sub-6 5G. That means no millimeter wave, which is the ungodly super fast 5G that very few people actually are in a coverage area for, so that's okay, and it also does in battery life. When it comes to cameras, pretty much it's the Pixel 5 cameras. You have the 16 megapixel ultrawide and the 12 megapixel main cameras on board, and as ever, they are excellent. Yes, we're waiting for Google to update the cameras because they've been rolling with the same hardware for a while, and that probably will happen with the Pixel 6, which we'll review. The phone is clad in aluminum, but you wouldn't know it at first because it does have a plastic coating on the outside. By the way, that rear fingerprint scanner, it's really shallow, so it's kind of hard to feel with your finger, which is unfortunate. All right, let's talk about that processor a little bit. The 765G has been around the block. It's been around for a while. We've seen it on the Pixel 5, where it was mildly offensive given the Pixel 5's $700 price tag. But here at $449, I'm okay with it. And as always, thanks to Google's very clean Android version, everything is silky smooth and runs fast. So I have no complaints. And games run fine too, you know, the most demanding racing games and Call of Duty Mobile, all that sort of stuff. So that's good. We still have 6 gigs of RAM, which isn't any different from previous version, and 128 gigs of storage, and Google still hates micro SD card slots. So no expandable storage there. But these days, I think most people stream. So hey, it's cool. Speakers on this are fine, not much bass. Well, it is a phone, so what are you going to do here? You're not going to rock your socks off exactly, but the speakers are okay. They're fitting for the price tag. When it comes to biometrics, it has a rear fingerprint scanner, which feels pretty retro these days, but is still fairly effective and comfortable. No facial recognition camera or anything like that. Certainly nothing under display going on with the fingerprint scanner. And you have a normal 8 megapixel selfie camera, which is what you saw in the Pixel 5 as well, and it's pretty good. Took a selfie of my cat. It looks all right. Funny enough, while expensive phones no longer seem to come with chargers, thank you Samsung and Apple, this one does come with an 18-watt fast charger, a USB cable, and a USB size adapter thingy too, and of course a SIM pokey tool. It has both an eSIM and a nano SIM card slot. In addition to 5G, this has Wi-Fi 5 dual band, not Wi-Fi 6, again at this price range, okay, and Bluetooth 5. You do have NFC, so you can use Google Pay on this. There is no wireless charging, and I guess at this price, Google's leaving that out, huh? All right, let's talk about the cameras a little bit. And now I know there's a brouhaha going on about, do the cameras overheat? Some sites have said, oh, well, ours overheated when recording 4K 60 frames per second video. So I can tell you right now here in Texas, it's ungodly hot. It's 98 degrees outside right now, and I recorded video for 5 minutes, which is the point at which I was overheating, and it did not overheat. but I had it sitting on my desk in the air conditioning where it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Hadn't been using it for an hour. The phone was not hot to the touch. It was not even warm. And I just turned it on to look at the camera and it said, can't use flash, camera's too hot. I'm like, what? To me, it seems like there might be a bug actually with the notification here and not actually the hardware overheating, but I can't tell you. Early days for this phone. Hopefully Google will iron out whatever's going on here. Image quality taken with the cameras are just great. So 16 megapixel wide again and 12 megapixel main camera, just like the Pixel 5. And the image quality is just as good as the Pixel 5. Of course, software over the year since the Pixel 5's release also means that things get better. I was really impressed with the HDR mode, which I think does a better job of even Samsung with their S21 family of phones of lifting the shadows a bit more. Now with the Samsung, you can lift the shadows yourself afterwards to get a little bit more detail there, but you have to do it yourself. So interesting that Google's actually one processing the image more with their AI algorithmic photography. Colors are natural. That's the thing I like about this. It looks like you took this with a standalone camera, as always. Now, I do lament the fact that we don't have a telephoto lens here. I'm a big fan of that. I like to take pictures of wildlife, of my cat, of other critters and things and pretty flowers where sometimes getting close just isn't so much a possibility. You do have 2x digital zoom available, and there's a little UI. You can just tap right on it to do it. And the quality is actually okay at 2x, but you want to go beyond that. You go to 4x, 5x, and it really falls apart. So it's not for that. If you're looking for something that does have a telephoto, this isn't the phone for you, clearly. Video quality has improved from previous Pixels too. It was obvious that Google focused on still imagery and not so much on videography, so Apple was really kicking them in the pants, and even Samsung for video quality. So it's certainly gotten better. I wouldn't call it class leading, but now I don't look at it and go, bleh, bleh, bleh. And you can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second with this. And then you got slow motion and all the usual fun stuff that you can do. Right now, the camera app's a little buggy. Besides, like I said, getting a notice I couldn't use the flash because the camera was overheating when the phone was most definitely not overheating. Sometimes it just kind of stops. Not exactly hangs, but it just stops doing anything for about 5 seconds and then comes back. So obviously we need some software updates here, and this is still early days. Battery life, as you can imagine, with a 4685 milliamp per hour battery is excellent, especially given the fact we don't have that top-of-the-line CPU or anything else going on here. This is a hard phone to kill, and that's kind of nice. You know, you don't have to spend the big premium bucks for a $1,000 plus phone just to get really good battery life. So in terms of hitting the cores, I have to say that Google actually did a good job here. Long battery life, a pretty decent OLED display on board at a nice mid-rangey 6.34-inch size, not too big, not too small. Nice, good to see. It's not a perfect phone by any means, but at $449, I can only expect so much. If you're also thinking about the Pixel 4a, if you can still find one, because Google's already discontinued that, but still it's $349, so $100 cheaper. If you can afford it, I would say go for the 5a. The improvements here, the battery, the bigger, better screen, the second camera on the back, the ultra-wide, are really worthwhile. Now, one gotcha here for those in the United States is you can get it unlocked, which is great. GSM, CDMA, or former CDMA carriers like Verizon, it'll work on with all of them in sub-6 5G, LTE, all of that sort of thing. And I'm using it on AT&T, and we know that they like to blacklist phones that aren't sold by them, but this one is fine and good to go, so it works, including Wi-Fi calling. But for those of you who like to buy through a carrier for their financing plans, not so much. Google sells it directly. I'm sure Best Buy and other chains will offer it, but not through carriers. So that's the Pixel 5a in mostly black and a mostly boring design, but like I said, you got battery life, you got a nice screen, you've got really good cameras, and you have a headphone jack. When do you see this anymore? So those are the pluses. The camera bugs, probably they'll iron them out. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit the notification bell so you know about them.